Good morning again. Welcome to Brighter Morning with Bhoe. My name is Bhoe Tewarie. This is Multicultural Television and U97.5 Hot Like Pepper Multicultural Radio. We have the Honourable Minister on the line, and we will talk to Minister Hassel Bacchus now. Minister, welcome. How are you doing?
Good morning, Dr. Good morning to you, Dr. Tewarie, and pleasure to be on Brighter Morning.
Thank you for coming on. We're glad to have you. And we'll try to have a conversation this morning about digitalization and the ministry's role in it. The Prime Minister has established this ministry responsible for digital transformation. He has put you in charge of it, and clearly during my interview with him, my discussion with him, he emphasized how important this ministry was and why he had determined to establish a full ministry responsible for digital transformation. So we're going to have a conversation about what your ministry will do and how we will proceed, etc. And I want to thank you for coming on the show. Thank you very much. So my first question, I'll get straight into it. What is your conceptual sense of the ministry which you now lead? The reason I ask about that is because there often is a confusion between digitization, between digitalization, and digital transformation. So what is your concept of the ministry? And give us a view of what you want to see delivered by your ministry in 2 years.
Again, good morning to you, Dr. Tewarie, and your listenership. The whole idea behind the ministry was really to get to a point where, as with all ministries, we want to make people's lives better. That's always, the key of what we're doing. And within this ministry, what I am trying to do is to get and build all of the systems, solutions that will enable that to happen. It's interesting that, when we talk about digital transformation and concepts, people still look at it as this thing that will happen sometime in the future. Digital transformation started in Trinidad and Tobago, and from what I've seen, having been in the ministry, as far back as 2003 with the Fast Forward Trust and so on, and that has been going on for some time. It's happening all around you all the time, just that people are not necessarily aware of all of it. It's not something that the Ministry of Digital Transformation can do alone. We have to have the assistance of, and will incorporate in, the private sector, the other ministries, divisions, and agencies. And as a matter of fact, that is where you see a lot of what is happening being evidenced. Ministry of Works and Transport, with what they've done with Fast Forward, they continue to do with other things. The Ministry of Health and some of the initiatives that they've had, what has happened with exemptions, etc. The digitalizing of a number of those processes are happening. We want to do them end to end, but as we stand now, we haven't gotten exactly to that point yet. So we're doing it pieces by pieces by pieces.
Okay, you said that a lot of things are happening where people are not aware. Is it that it's not making a direct impact on the lives of people? And therefore, because of that, they are not aware, or is it something else?
So when you look at how people are able to engage with the state, primarily it used to be you would go into offices, sign what you have to sign, make up your forms, get what you need to get done. COVID, as an intervention, really stopped that. We had to stay away from having large amounts of people in businesses, large amounts of people in the offices, find digital ways to do it. So if you think about how that has been evolving, ministry by ministry by ministry by ministry, service by service by service, it has been occurring. The thing is, the communication of it is still not necessarily at its best, but will get better. We have to formulate a way to get all of those services in a single place. So when you want to find any government service, you'll find them in a single pane of glass. We're working on those systems to get them together. And then, of course, we still have the issue of having to continue to expand the the reach and access for everyone within Trinidad and Tobago. A number of initiatives have happened in that space. I know the Telecommunications Authority, in conjunction with a number of service providers, there are a number of initiatives there that give them the incentive to move into areas that are not necessarily the most economic in terms of what they want to do. The state has also built a number of ICT centers in places that are underserved. And those centers are staffed with people from the areas themselves. And you can go to those offices, those areas, of bring your own device if you have to, but more than if you have one, but more so there are devices there provided for you, knowledgeable people there to help you, and you can access all government services there. These are just some of the ways it's happening. But the communication of that is still something that we have to work on and get even better.
Okay, so you have to find a way of reaching the consciousness of people to make this work, right? Let me ask you something. What are 3 things that you can identify which you will do or can do that will have a positive impact on the life of a citizen? And I want you to talk to me about that from the citizen's point of view. How will the citizen's life be better?
So in transformation, when we start these digital transformation trusts, we really work from the citizen going backward. But let me put this in a different way, so maybe this will bring it home for you. The keys to transformation really revolve around 3 things, if you want to put them very, very broadly: people, process, and systems. And digital transformation involves all of those pieces. When we start looking at the ways in which we impact lives, that people part of it is key. Because what we tend to do is look at the consumptive side, saying, well, listen, we're working on solutions for people, and the citizen, who is the user of the service, or the person who's consuming the service, is the primary focus. Yes, they are. But the customers of the system include the people who are delivering the service. So when a valid example would be if you went to any office, public office that you would go into now to get a service, you as a citizen would normally be the primary focus because you are the person who wants the service. But for that service to happen and to be done with the highest level of efficacy and to give you the kind of satisfaction that you deserve as a citizen, the person who is delivering the service is also a prime consideration. So what are we going to do? I have to concurrently do a number of things. I have to build valid ecosystems that will allow for the ease of life for people to continue to get better. Always on that part of it. We have to figure out how we do that. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to build a lot of these systems and solutions ourselves using our own people. A number of countries have gone about these types of transformations in buying the solutions. We will get help from the consultants and experts in the fields in which we endeavor, but we are going to build them ourselves using all of that great and rich talent that we have in the ICT space in Trinidad and Tobago. So how does that help? Well, it creates that groundswell, that ecosystem of people that will have to continue and sustain what we're doing going forward. That's one way it does. We are going to have across the board ways in which the state can uniquely identify you. And how is that going to benefit what we're doing? Remember, we're talking here about digital government. How is that going to benefit? Well, when you want to access goods and services currently, for example, every ministry that you go to, you have to make up a different form. And you have to input the same information. You sometimes have to provide evidence as to who you are. That in itself represents a level of frustration for people. And of course, it means that the ministries are working in silos. We want to get to the point, and we will get to that point, where we will have this, you only need to enter this information once, and you can be uniquely identified to the state. So it makes things easier for you. Digital government saves government money all over the world. It's one of the reasons why they do it. How does that redound to the benefit of the citizen? Well, in areas where you have people who want to exploit the system, grants at social development might be an example to use, where people, for whatever reasons, decide I am going to apply for the same grant 3 and 4 times and get more benefits than I should have. Well, how does this fix that? Well, because of the types of technology that we're going to use in places like that, what you would have is that will be very, 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 very difficult to do. It means that that same pie that was being divided up between 100 people, 50 of which were duplicates, can now be divided up into 100 really deserving people. So the benefit comes back again because what you have can now go further than it was.
But
When you take on another side of it, when you look at the manner in which you have to transact business now, even in the private sector, when you have to work with 3 and 4 forms of ID, when you have to find systems and solutions that allow for easier payments across the board for everything, all of those things fall under the things that we will be doing within this ministry. Just to think about it, when you start opening up payment solutions, as we have across the board in a number of ministries where you can use various mechanisms to pay, but primarily they're card-based. As we move further into fintech, things like mobile money and so on become easier. It means that you as the citizens now have options in how you do things and you're not restricted in some ways. And so if you look at the card penetration, for example, in the financial space, that only represents a small segment of the society. If we want to be truly inclusive in what we're doing, things like fintech and options like mobile money and so on will become part of what we need to do. And all of that has to happen concurrently, not to mention the fact that we have to adjust some legislation while we do that as well.
Yeah, three things I really want to ask you and try to connect them. You know, you mentioned the unique identifier. Now, this is something that predates you.
Yes.
This is something that was attempted. I mean, I was in the administration 2011 to 2015. I know that there were attempts made there in social development as well as Ministry of Health. The Prime Minister has spoken about this in his first administration, digitalization, and we are now in the second Keith Rowley administration, and we are now getting to this. How close are we to individual national identity numbers and this unique identifier? First of all. Secondly, the whole purpose of doing this is really for the efficiency and effectiveness of the process to the citizen and his or her convenience. And thirdly, that you, as you said, you have to work backwards from that to see how this thing is going to make sense throughout the system, you use that word, which is the governmental system and apparatus. Tell me how close we are, tell me how convenient it will be, and tell me how you're going to get this through this system in the time frame that you are giving me.
Okay, so let's put this into context. The creation of a digital identity for all people in Trinidad and Tobago represents a critical underlying factor in what we have to do. Why is that so? Because once the state can truly identify who you are, or the private sector for that matter, because this service can extend well into the private sector. Once that happens, then every service that you want to access will be linked to it. It is tied also to, and I know we didn't state it, but it is tied also to another robust system that we have to build concurrently, which addresses the safe, secure, and resilient exchange of information between ministries, divisions, agencies, anything that has to happen. I like to use examples to show how this can work.
Mr. Bacchus, we're going to take a break at this point. Welcome back to Brighter Morning with Bhoe. We're glad to have you on board, and we continue in our discussion with the Minister responsible for digital transformation. Thank you very much, Chanel, for the news. Before we talk to the Minister, let's show him and our audience an image that was used by Dr. Rajendra Singh when I interviewed him here. He's an IT expert and a cyber security expert. Let me just show it. This is what he used to illustrate what the challenge requires: the conversion of analog to digital, so digitization of data, the adaptation process, digitalization, and I would add to that the applications process, and that is where you've got to address the issue of user value and convenience and so on. And digital transformation, a creation in which you basically have created the situation where the public sector system is digitally literate and can apply this easily at a fingertip and at a thought. And it is also connected with the citizen as well as the private sector. I didn't ask the minister about education, but that we'll probably get to that. And this digital transformation really requires the transformation and adaptability of human beings. So I'll ask the minister to comment on that a little bit as we continue the discussion. Okay? So you saw that, right? So
yes. So that diagram is actually a generic diagram that they will use to show the progression from some state in which you are, the place of digital transformation. Remember, this is a journey. Digital transformation continues. Yes. It doesn't really end. It goes where it goes. The digitization part of that is a prerequisite. You can't have digitalization without having digital content to manipulate. And that has been...
How much of that have we mastered now in the public service, you think?
It's still not where it needs to be. We haven't...
40%, 50%?
It varies by ministry, division, and agency. And the reason why I'm saying that, you have to be careful with that as well. The digitization of a document doesn't necessarily make it useful. It is when it is embodied into the processes for which the document is to be used, that's right, is when it becomes a useful thing. If you're talking about just storing documents for archival purposes, then that process is fairly short. You index it, create a taxonomy for how you can find it, and then you put it in a place where it's secure, and that goes into the technology. But think about a document that you have to use. The government service works on files. If you copy all the information from one file today, so you have a digital representation of it, you don't change the process by which the information is being used. The next time that file is updated or is used somewhere else, the information you have is out of date. And you don't get the efficiencies because what you're doing really is creating a digital version of an analog document that continues to be in use. So when we talk about digitizing the documents and so on of the government service, it's more than just making them digital versions of what exists. It includes all of the process change, all of the people change that are associated with the adaptation of the processes, and then, of course, the robust systems that you have to build to allow for those processes to continue to work and evolve.
Okay. Are you working at all, Minister, with the education sector, or is that something separate from what you are doing?
I had been previously, and I continue to do so. Now I have to work even more closely with them now, bearing in mind that where we are in terms of what it is. Dr. Nasmith would have indicated the intent to continue on a blended learning path even when people return to school. For that to happen, there are a number of things that have to happen. Again, you need digital content, but more so, you need a management solution that allows for students to partake in that. Benefits, sure, it's available to all. You have the benefits of having single teachers doing multiple classes, so you don't have this issue of a teacher is not available and therefore this class cannot go on. You have a number of things with that. But the solutions that need to be built, and just to give you an example of 4 of them, a learning management system has to be there because that underlies all of the things that you have in terms of every student, every school being connected to teachers and content being exchanged both ways. You need to have what I call an EMIS, on education management information system, which addresses the infrastructure of schools themselves. What happens when a pipe breaks? What happens when you need something done? What happens? All of that goes into our management. Again, electronic. You want to be able to evaluate what is happening with your literacy and so on. It is topical now because people have not been physically in school for some time. Literacy and numeracy evaluation and remedial type interventions, all of that is being discussed and worked through at the electronic level. What is key though, Dr. Tewarie, that I want people to understand, you can go buy these systems all over the place. And what you put yourself in is a continuous, the cost of ownership for these systems escalates, especially as you grow them. What we have and we've been using and evaluating and continue to improve with the help, of course, with international people, the World Bank, etc., etc. But the idea is that the learning management system that is in place now that we're continuing to work with was built by people within the ministry.
Yeah.
So part of what I want is to be able to have all of our local ICT power come to bear on all of the digital solutions that we have. I want people to not look at things that are built locally and say, that real good for something that was built locally. It is because we have the capability and capacity to build world-class, world-standard solutions here for ourselves. It makes it regenerative and we'll be able to continue.
Yes, and then when you use local talent like that, you can also customize things in a way that suits our culture and environment,
exactly,
which is very valuable. So I want to commend you on that. I think that is the reasonable route to go, which is that you get expertise from wherever you can to help you, but you really use local talent as the driving power behind everything, and you increase the learning in the community of people who are involved in this digital exercise, digitalization exercise. Now, we're going to have to end soon, Minister, and I want to ask you a final question. What is your high focus right now to speed up action on this? What are the 2 or 3 things that you are going to do immediately in the next week, in the next 2 weeks, in the next month that will speed up action on this, that will accelerate the process?
So there are a few things that we have to do. One of them is that we have to start approaching the projects that we do differently. The traditional waterfall way in which projects were done across, even in the private sector, has to change. We have to move to a more agile methodology of execution of projects. We're bringing the right people in to do that. The idea of, and that is key, the idea of recruiting the right talent has continued to plague a number of places, including my ministry. We have to get the right people. They are available, but it is to create the right atmosphere that allows for that to happen. The spread, the communication of the message that we're doing is also key, so that I'm going to get more buy-in and creating the vision, this 21st century vision of Trinidad and Tobago is important, so that it is not just that we want to build things to push out, but that the customers will demand it, and that we have to get those things built as quickly as possible. And I'll tell you, there is significant interest in the private sector and in the ministries themselves to become digitalized and to start to reap the benefits for it themselves. They see the efficiency benefits of it. So demand is there. We need the people, and we need to change, and we are changing the way in which projects are executed within the government sector. Those are the key areas of focus.
Minister, if the digitalization process were speedy in this country and accelerated, and we really were making some serious headway, we can build a whole set of industries here and accelerate the diversification process as well, absorb large numbers of people in the university graduate output system. I mean, it's a very critical thing for transformation of the economy. Do you see that and value that?
It's interesting you put it that way. And as you know, people look at that almost as an afterthought because they think of technology as something that is serving the people only and not necessarily as a big economic transformation item. It is. Again, since being minister for this particular period of time, I've had a number of reports, files that came back for previous things that were available that we need to have another look at. The entirety of the ICT sector is worth, well, you would know this, Dr. Tewarie, is worth trillions worldwide. There are very few regional hubs for the major players in cloud, for example, in the Southern Caribbean. AWS, Azure, all of those places still are looking for areas to have regional centers. Here, Trinidad and Tobago is uniquely advantageous where those things are concerned. So yes, it is. And these things are happening on very grand scales. These are not small data centers that you would have. So these are global regional centers that the government of Trinidad and Tobago could partner with these major international organizations to bring that type of industry to Trinidad and Tobago. And those things are certainly economically transformational.
So can we look to you then to see some collaboration with the local private sector here and the international private sector to make such a thing possible, you think?
Yeah, like I said, we were already exploring a number. That has happened already. It will be a focus of the ministry, again, in collaboration with the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, obviously the Ministry of Finance when you're talking about those kinds of things. And again, the private sector is a key component of this. So the answer to that is absolutely yes. And those things actually move a lot faster than transforming a country. The introduction of an industry, especially one that is as mature as cloud, etc., is actually on the shorter side of implementation. It's really to get to that point.
Yes, because industry will go about its business regardless of what the environment is, as long as it gets the freedom to do so. Anyway, Minister, I want to thank you for, first of all, appearing on the program and having this conversation with me. I thought it was a forthright conversation. And secondly, I want to thank you for staying the extra time so that we could explore some of the issues. And I want to wish you well in your ministry, and because the country depends on what you are doing. And I want to wish our country well as far as that is concerned, the integration of technology and IT systems and the digitalization process in everything that we do in order to compete with and connect with the rest of the world. Thank you very, very much, Minister Hassel Bacchus, for being with us this morning. And we hope to converse with you another time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tewarie, for having me on Brighter Morning. I look forward to coming back on the program and showing, demonstrating some of the progress that we've made. And I just want to encourage the population and your viewership to please get vaccinated.
Okay. Thank you very much. We take a break now, a commercial break, and when we come back, we have the Chief Executive Officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Gabriel Faria, and we'll have a conversation with him. Thank you very much for watching. This is Brighter Morning on MCTV, Multicultural TV, and new 97.5 FM radio, Multicultural Radio. Thank you very much for viewing. We'll be right back.